funds and regular meeting of the Board of Education on Monday, June 8th, 2015. Mrs. Perino, could you please have a roll call?
Ona? Here. Carol? Here. Marks? Lauren? Here. Huckabee? Here. Paredes?
Here, and a quorum is present. Next on the agenda, we open the floor to a public hearing regarding the transfer of funds to the Education in Operation and Maintenance Fund.
Thank you, Ms. Paredes. Ms. Lobella, this is our hearing for it. There will be an action item later on in the board agenda for
We need to
approval.
make a formal motion,
Right.
second, and vote to go into a public hearing.
That's correct.
I make a motion to go into public hearing for the transfer of funds.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
This is your public hearing, and if you transfer funds from the transportation fund into the education fund and the operations and maintenance fund, you need to have a public hearing and take any public comments on the subject. It was put in the notices of Southtown, and really all this is going to do is transfer $500,000 into operations and maintenance and $500,000 into the ed fund. It was something that we had planned to do at the beginning of the year to put our cash in the appropriate places. Do you have any questions of me? Any public comment, and then you can make a motion.
Are there any public comments? Okay, then, seeing none, we'll take the, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Mrs. Marks is first, Mrs. Oden is second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The motion passes. Next on the agenda, the board would like to recognize students who went to state for track and field.
Thank you, Mr. Paredes. If I can have Mr. Lozinski come up. Boys and girls that are here for the state track meet, we're very, very proud of you. It was fun watching you. I was down there Saturday morning, actually, and you did a great job. We're very, very pleased. We know we brought some hardware home, and the Board of Education would like to recognize you by giving you a certificate. And once your name is called, if you'll come up here, you'll start with Mr. Simmons, shake his hand. Once you get up to Mr. Paredes, they'll hand you a certificate, and then we'll get a picture and make sure that you're on the website for tomorrow morning. So congratulations, everyone. Mr. Brozinski.
Okay, the boys, 8th grade, 4x100 team, finished 6th place in the state out of over 40 teams. Joshua Bridges, Jack Point, Cameron Carter, Adnan Peyton Bernard, and Justin Whiteside. And they were all 8th graders, so they probably are all still celebrating graduation, so they are done. And the 8th grade girls, 4x200, finished 8th in the state. And the 7th grader, I think, is here. Maya Hero, please come up. You're allowed to hug your mom, too. Udo Anadobu, Treely Newkirk, and David Roberts. Congratulations very much. It's very difficult to do between the top teams in the state. Maya, and we're going to go out and she's going to get a picture of you. Take in the hall maybe. Or right. Come here. Wait, run away. Need a picture.
Is there anyone else?
No, I don't see anybody else here.
Yeah.
Next, the board would like to recognize students who participated in the Math Bowl.
Mr. Olson, thank you very much for presenting the names. Again, boys and girls, if you'll come up here after your name is announced, you'll start off Mr. Simmons, we'll shake your hand, we'll give you a certificate. Did an excellent job during the participation of the Math Bowl. Congratulations. Thank you, parents, for being here as well.
So the 2015 Math Bowl took place on Thursday, April 30th and Friday, May 1st at Prairie State College. There was over 24 school districts competing in this year's competition, and that was approximately 100 students each day. So 26 schools or so, and they recognized the top 6. They placed and got a little trophy, so that's the top 25% roughly. So it's quite an accomplishment to be there. And I thought we're going to mention everybody, right? Okay, so for Division A, which is first and second graders, coached by Emily Rock, we have Gregory Mitchell, Cormac Saunders, and Brooklyn Thomas from Western Avenue and Flossmoor Hills. Those are first graders. Our second graders were Noel Dolan, Gus Zillman, and Gianni Albarico. And the results for these young math monsters here, we have the MVP for the A and B division was Noel Dolan. And so I mentioned the awards. They recognized up to 6th place. So first graders, we had Cormac Saunders placing 6th. Gus Zillman placed 3rd. So those were individuals, and then the Division A team placed 3rd. All right, so Division B is 3rd and 4th graders, coached by Joel Mulhern. We have Mason, 3rd graders, Mason List and Jack Piros from Western Avenue, and Xavier White from Red Hill. Fourth graders, we had Dean Barrow and Liam Nelson from Western Avenue, and Bilal Muhammad from Serena Hills. So the awards that we had here was individual awards. Jack Piros, come on over here, buddy. Good job. All right. Individual awards for 3rd graders. Jack Piros placed 6th, and Mason List placed 4th. And then in 4th grade, Liam Nelson placed 4th. All right, Division C was coached by me, and the 5th graders, we had Tehran Melicharuvu from 5th Flossmoor Hills. From Hartford Junior High. Our 6th graders, we had Sierra Carpenter. These are all from Hartford. Sierra Carpenter. We had Jack Brokop. Chad Reddy. Ian Barrow. This is June So our awards that we have from Division C here, Sierra was our MVP from Division C and D. Jack Brokop got a 6th grade and placed 6th, and Sierra Carpenter placed 5th. And finally, we have the Division D, the 7th and 8th grade team coached by John Kerr, again, all from Parker. So we have Caden Harris, Eric Piros, Anna Thompson, and our 8th grade team consisted of Perry Hogue, Patrick McLean, and Henry Theros. So our awards for Division 7th grade, we had Eric Piros getting 6th and Patrick McLean in 8th grade placing 5th. So.
Take a picture of everyone. All these kids in the back. They do my third grade in the middle, and kindergarten, first grade on this front. Come on over, guys, give me a shot. Guys, put over. Scoot in a little bit, scoot in. You're okay. All right, perfect. Let's get a couple more right down in front. All right, scoot in a little bit here. Scoot in a little bit. All right. Okay, I'm gonna smile. No, I'm not gonna All right, I'm kind of free. I'm gonna say cheese and you can self-smile, right? 1, 2, 3, cheese. One more. 1, 2, 3, cheese.
Thank you very much. Next, the board would like to recognize students who participated in the National Spelling Bee. Oh, sorry, National History Week. My apologies.
Yes, Ms. Lester, if you could please come up. We have 3 students we would like to honor and really appreciate what they've done. Just put us on the map.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. After competing regionally and locally, we had some students travel over the Memorial Day weekend. 8th graders, Barbara Burns, Perry Hogue, and Miles Walker went to Louisville, Kentucky to compete in the National History Week. On Saturday, May 23rd, they competed against over 500 students from across the country. In the preliminary round, Barbara placed at 118th and Miles at 65th, which qualified both to move on to the quarterfinals championship round. Barbara placed 3rd in her round, and Miles tied for 2nd in his. Both just fell short of moving on to the semifinals. On Sunday, all 3 students competed together at the National Teen History Bowl, and our Parker students placed 1st in the consolation round and did receive a plaque. We're so proud of them. All 3 of these students, congratulations.
We have a quick announcement. If you would like to make a quick announcement, that would be wonderful.
We'd like to give the plaque to the school board.
Thank you, students, for all of your hard work. I know that it's no longer school night, but if you wish to leave early, we will certainly understand. But a lot of hard work in this year that we appreciate. Thank you very much. At this time, we will allow for audience comments. Mr. Johnson? Yeah, just first. Yeah, just something.
This is my first time of actually attending a board meeting in this environment, and I've been here for 15 years. I've raised 6 kids altogether here. We have graduated through this 161 district without any problems. No problems at all. If parents and teachers, if children have problems among themselves, I think it's the culture of this environment to call the parents in and try to resolve the problem. That's what I know from my experience. My 3 kids went through college and before this president. And unfortunately, I have 3 other ones that are coming behind. 2 of them at the middle school. One is over there in the elementary school. But for the past few years now, 2 years, there's always been a fight among the kids. And nobody has ever made any attempt to try to call the parents like they used to. I don't know why. Especially with my kid that was beaten up so badly couple of week ago, about a week or 2 weeks ago. I tried to come in and ask questions and see if they would call the other parents in and try to resolve the problem amicably, or or punish them for some, when kids fight to this extent, there should be some punishment. But nobody will talk to, especially my wife and myself, whose child is the victim of the other person's aggression. And I felt left out in the cold. And I wonder what has changed. But the noise I'm hearing on the outside is that the school district is afraid of lawsuit. Lawsuit for what? I moved here because of this school district. I used to live in Evanston. My goal is not to disrupt the setup here, But I want something to be done to stop this nonsense that is going on amongst these kids. Fighting to the point of my child having some brain problem, I don't like that. That is no parent, you will not take that as the president of the board, sir. And that is the reason I'm here. I talked to Mr. Foster, Duster, once. He was very nice. He came across nicely. But the principal has been irresponsive. She's always trying to hide. She told people, don't talk to him, don't talk to me. I've never had any experience like that before. Why don't you talk to me? Am I devil? Am I satanic? Am I evil? Or am I after money? I have a good job. I live a comfortable life in this country. So I have no problems at all. But I don't like the situation where my child has, I don't know what will happen to him in the future. That's what the neurosurgeon told me. And that's why I'm really confused. I don't know why the hush-hush, and people are telling me that, no, it's a secretive. We can't tell you about the other. I don't even know the parents of the other child who beat my child. Isn't that my right to know the parents? At least, and there's no way I will know the parents except the school intervenes and bring us together. But the school has not done that. And that's why I'm here this evening to ask you, Mr. Doster, what is the, because you told me, you said the whole thing is still under investigation. Is the investigation over?
The investigation is not over.
But there was a letter that went out to all the parents saying that two boys were fighting. And in that letter, I saw a hand of insincerity in it. Because there were comments made in that letter that to me, touched me so much that I felt bad about it. My child did not raise a hand to the other kid, did not throw a punch. My child was jumped on. And I'm ready to say that in the presence of anybody. My child was jumped on. My child was afraid. My child ran another way instead of his usual way to go home. So what's the difference? How long is the investigation? Yes, sir.
It's unfortunate, but we cannot talk about the other child to other parents. It's the law that we have to abide by. We're still going through the investigation, and we'll be discussing that with the Board of Education later.
Excuse me, sir, in the past, if two kids have problems, the parents are usually called into say. I remember one tall, hefty, imposing man that always does that in the school. Is something like that no longer available? Where you can do conflict resolution instead of court, instead of legal counsel?
There's interventions that are still available for parents and things. This situation that is arose is being dealt with differently.
Is there any reason why? Because of the medical?
I can't answer those questions, and I'm sorry, but we're working on this. We're working through it. We're actually, in part of my report, we're going to have a community meeting before the end of June. I'll say that I'm trying to get everyone lined up so that we can talk about the types of norms and values that people at Parker parents want to see, and then we're going to take a look, and we've already been reviewing our discipline program, et cetera, but we want to add more into it about restorative justice, those types of things. But I can't specifically comment on the situation that you brought up. And I apologize for that. I cannot do it.
But I would really advise the board, because I know that you're bringing in another principal. We need a principal who will stay with these kids, who will get to know them, who will nurture them. We don't need someone fly by night, who will come in for 2 years or 1 year and leave the children. My first 3 children, they were solid, good kids, and they went through the system without any problems. Please consider that in all your approaches to getting new people to come and work with us. I'm not leaving this place. I don't want my kids to leave 161. It's not my intention. Because I love this place. I love the environment. I love the schooling. I love the teachers. I love Mr. Brzezinski. Unfortunately, he wouldn't even talk to me. When I went there this morning, he wouldn't talk to me, and I felt sad about that. Because there was a box that was given to me with some papers in it that says that my kids need to return some homework Friday. That paper, the teachers gave it to some teachers on June 1st. We just got it today. How are the kids going to turn those in for credits?
They'll have time to turn that in.
What is it?
Your child will have time to turn that in.
Okay. I really appreciate that.
Yes.
So he's working on it now, but you know it's not possible. If I got the box this morning, it's not possible for him to turn it in again because the school is over today. Am I right?
School's over today, but we'll give time for it.
I really appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the sixth point, sir.
What are, I'm just curious, what are your current policies for fighting Parker?
Our
What are
current
the
policies
policies?
are in our handbook. The,
Just if there's fighting, or my understanding of HF is it's zero tolerance, is that established at Parker, or is that not?
I can't speak for HF, but we take everything according to what happens. We address that, and we take care of it as equally as we can,
So,
as fairly as we can. So
So if you
if
punch
a
somebody
situation,
or-
if a situation takes place, then administration deals with it, and there are consequences for the behaviors that have taken place.
I have a question as well. I guess more like a comment. My son was in intensive care while the other students were in jail. I don't think that's fair. I heard he got suspended for 3 days, 4 days. My son was in the hospital in intensive care with brain bleed. Well, I mean, what is it? I don't understand. You said you take care of it equally. Last year, my daughter got in a push fight. She pushed the girl pushed her back. They were both suspended for 2 days. I get that. My son was in intensive care. The dog monitors. I don't think that the crime equal the punishment. That child should be expelled. My son does not get bused into Parker. He walks. We live in Heather Hill. We pay $12,000 a year to live in that house on a lot, not even acres. So our kids can go to this excellent school district, which is now seemingly falling apart. I don't know where these kids are getting bused from, but I'm sure there's an alternative school that some of them can go to. Our children, they're at home. My son was at home for medical reasons. My daughter was at home because she was being taunted and teased because she didn't stick up for her brother. Where was she? You know, oh, your brother got beat down. That's all she's hearing on Instagram and Facebook. My son is at home saying, oh my God, the boy's video got 38 likes. That's what I don't understand. If you have riffraff in the system, we need to get a ghetto-ass principal in here to knock them all out. I'm serious. Mr. McNair would have been an excellent principal, because I know last year Mr. McNair handled it. My daughter got done to a scuffle with a girl, he handled it. It was X'd out. When Dr. Atkins was there with my other children, who are now 28, 26, and 20, went through Heather Hill, through Parker, and through HF, nothing like that ever happened. I don't think it's fair. You just said, Doctor, that it depends on, what's, the consequences. I don't get that. My son was hospitalized with a brain bleed. We still don't know. We see the neurosurgeon on Wednesday. We still don't know if it's going to be long-term, if he's going to be he's already had 3 instances since he's been home. The first one, he was having pounding in the back of his head. The second one, he said, he was reading a book, he said everything went green. And the third one was his head was pulsating in the front. I want to know that, just like my husband said, we shouldn't have to take our children out of this school district. We moved from Evanston, an excellent school district, to out here because we heard it was better. We heard it was awesome, and it was. But something is changing, and we need to change too. We can't just be, I was told by a parent that she was sitting over in her car waiting for her daughter to come out. There was a fight progressing over there in Levitt Park. And the assistant principal, I'm not going to say any name, but it was an assistant principal, was standing within sight of that fight. The parent said she got out of the car herself and went over there and broke up the fight. And then she said she went to the office the next day trying to report it. And they said, well, do you know who the kids were who were fighting? The lady said, no, I was just letting you know. So nothing ever apparently came from it because the little boy didn't go and tell his parents. I don't want to have a situation where I have to move my children to a different school district and be responsible now for paying out of district tuition when at least $4,000 or $5,000 of my property tax, I'm certain, goes to school district 161. My kids are terrified to come back to school. They were invited to a birthday party on Saturday. My little son, Prince, invited to a birthday party. He said, are there going to be Parker kids there? He was afraid he didn't even go. He's been sitting in the house for the past 2 weeks afraid. Just afraid. And he should be, we live in fucking Flossmoor, excuse my language. My children should not have to be afraid. This is not an inner city school. It's not an inner city district. My kids need to feel like if they come back to Parker next year, they're gonna be safe. When they walk to, my son cannot, he doesn't even walk past the buses. He walks down School Street, up to Douglas and comes over, usually meets me by Levitt. But he didn't go that way because he saw that fucking little boy, excuse my French. Sorry, I'm trying to vent, I'm sorry, please, I promise I won't say anything else like that again, I'm so sorry. He saw the child who he had already heard was going to attack him, but had been bullying him for at least the past 2 weeks, not pushing or punching, just saying bad, stupid stuff back and forth. He saw that kid, he didn't see any other adults down there, so he went through the buses. He was gonna go between the cars and the buses on the sidewalk, on the path there, the gravel, and he figured if I go on the sidewalk, he saw teachers. He couldn't tell me which teachers. He said, there was adults over there, that's why I went that way, Mommy. And now my son is at home recovering, where he has to be cleared by a neurosurgeon to play any kind of sport, to do anything anymore, while the other little kid was allowed to come to school. Suspended for 3 days? I doubt it. I'm sure wherever he lives, I'm sure he's not paying $12,000 a year in property tax. So that should definitely be something to think about. What are you guys gonna do for my son and my daughter when my daughter's in 8th grade next year and my son's in 7th and he comes back and he's that same stupid kid? And all those other little kids who were gonna be saying, ha, you got your butt beat, ha. I mean, how am I gonna tell my kid went to counseling the other day because of this, because he's afraid. Please help me understand why my child living in school district 161 should be afraid to come to school.
Thank you very much for your comments. Is there anyone else who has any other comments? If not, we're going to move on to our next agenda item.
I do, actually.
Sure.
You know what? I guess a lot of us are really concerned. Oh, I'm sorry.
What's your name?
Stephanie Mullen is my name. I have 2 daughters that are at Western. Our biggest concern is, what is the current policy? Was it followed, and why weren't there adults there supervising the altercation at the time when it happened and stopping it? Because it did go on and on. You know, that's our biggest concern overall. And it never let anybody be heard. I feel terrible for this woman. But, you know, a lot of us feel that way. So.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you. Number 1, the enrollment dashboard has been steady the whole year. If there are any questions, contact me. Second thing, it's not on there on the report, but it deals with the iPads. Last year we had 524 students with our iPads. We've just done our final checks and we've had 7 this year. So the case has definitely assisted the concerns we had last year. Summer school will begin on June 15th at Serena Hills. That will be taking place. We have a report that's coming up in regards to the bids for the asphalt, but that will be taking place very soon as well. Next item is the community forum. I want to let the Board of Education know, but before the end of June, we will be having a meeting, and it will probably be here. We invite the Board of Education, of course, to come, but we will have a discussion for those community members that would like to come, and we'll have a discussion about discipline, general discipline policies, practices, values of our community, etc. And we will take that input over the summer. We will really review our policies that we have throughout the district, and then we will continue with those. We're looking at a balanced discipline type of program, which would have restorative justice involved with it, as well as traditional discipline. And that information, we're hoping to have it done. We have our handbooks to be due in July. That piece may not be in there until August, but we'll have that approved before school starts. That is the goal, at least at this point. So, with that being said, the last item that I have is the Strategic Planning Committee. It was a wonderful exercise and experience to be involved with over the last couple of days to this. And I want to let the Board of Education know that I had a goal of having this to the board at the community pool meeting at our June 22nd meeting. That goal is not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to make it. So we're going to have the draft to the Board of Education of the strategic plan where it has the goals to it, the action plan, et cetera. That we're not going to be able to do that by the next meeting. So my goal is to try to have the first draft by our July 13th meeting for the board to review. So we have to sit down administratively. Our first meeting on it will be July 15th, or excuse me, June 15th, which is next Monday, to dissect information and start developing the action plan to present to the Board of Education. Yes? Yep.
Can you just, I can understand the process by which there's a first draft and then we are to provide these input questions and this will then the second draft and then the first draft and the final draft.
No, we'll have a draft we'll present to the board and you let us know, well, maybe we need to add a little bit more of this or maybe we didn't, we didn't quite mean that, et cetera. So then we'll take it back. There's no committee of the whole in July, so.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so it'll continue. We hope to have it approved at the end of August. We may have a special board meeting after the committee of the whole. But going through it briefly, there's some items on there I'm wrestling with right now. It's a little bit of a challenge. For example, we have finance as a focus area or a goal. When we talked about that, one of the questions I'll ask you right now actually is when you talk about finances, you also, what should be involved with that should be facilities, because facilities are a lot of money. If you have, a roof goes down, it's $1 million, right there. So those are the things that will bring back to the board. Perhaps that goal should be finance and facilities. So what do you think of that? Or a goal or a topic?
Well, wait, and me, myself, I like the way that we did it last year is we looked at, when we got the draft from the administration, we also got the notes that was created by the committee, each committee, and then we can then compare if there was information that needed to be included, that was deleted, that people were more strongly had an opinion about that wasn't a part of the plan, then we could amend those sections. So I'd like to look at the notes first, see what the actual whole committee thought, and go from there, because, otherwise, why would we have committees who had input if, we just discount what their input was?
They had, like some of the parking lot issues, as I looked through that, there was like year-round school, there were attendance centers that were discussed, there were things like foreign languages starting at the kindergarten level.
These are all working. As I understand the process, this is really a huge community engagement piece where, part of the deal is if you think of something that is not directly related to your strategic goal subcommittee, and you'd like to put it in the parking lot, that is, part of the way of the ideation process. And I think I agree with that. I think that's very important. What I would like to know is, after you meet, rather than wait until July 13th, I would love to have an advance copy of what you can push out to the board so that we can look at this much in the same way we look at tentative budgets and other tentative items that we're going to talk about. So it's not, okay, this is what we came up with, what do you think? And that way we can be more prepared.
Right. I don't know if I can get it to you quicker to the board before that 13th day of July. There's a lot of work that has to go into it. If I can, we certainly will, along with some other information. So we'll try to do that. In addition to that, I will be sending the vision statement and the mission statement out for input from the Board of Education. I will try to mail that this week. And then evaluations are due on the 10th from the committee. So once we have that, I'll send those results out as well.
Okay, if I'm sorry to interrupt anybody, but even if you don't have all 5 areas of the strategic planning, if it turns out you have 3 of them, whatever you can get out to give us a little bit of time to look at it, I think we really appreciate that. So, as much as I like that complete presentation, certainly if we can understand that we're still working on, finance and facilities, but we have these other four, I think that would be very helpful.
All right, anything else? Yes.
So, to go to Ms. Odom's point, the 5 topics that the committee, that the forum were given to consider were given by the board, directed by the board. So they didn't, the committee didn't come up with those ideas, they were given by the board. Would the board be interested in reevaluating how those categories were given and whether or not they were the right fit for what the committees came up with? To have finance drive a strategic plan seems limiting and perhaps backwards, whereas the goals that the committee came up with, such as maintaining facilities and offering full language, would be, the finances would dictate our ability to do those things that we want to do. We shouldn't choose what we can do based on how much money we have. I think that limits our creativity and our approach to solving problems or delivering the needs of the community says that they have, and we as a board might feel. So I'm just concerned that we might have limited the discussion by the buckets we gave them. So we might want to reevaluate how we frame that plan. We might not want to hold it to those buckets.
Kristen, I don't think I understand, or I'm sure I understand what you're saying, is that having a financial component as part of a financial metric or goal is part of
I would think if you have
those
5 main components of a strategic plan, finances come into every one of those components. They're not a component.
That part is what
And this was what when we had our board meetings, some of us had that feeling, and I understand the goal of the board was to move forward with what we gave the strategic plan group. What I'm saying now is perhaps in light of what we got back, I would hate for us to produce a plan that's perhaps less than it would be because we were rigidly following dictates that may not have been.
So when I was finishing, I was actually saying I disagree with you. So that's why I was trying to.
Not disagreeing,
No, it was good. What I was saying, and
That's
that
what we
one
gave
of the parts that came out of the, what was really great, I think, about that discussion is that when we talked about the financial piece, it was, should our, our goals be driven by the finances, or should what our goals are drive the finances? Now, having said that, and again, I missed that particularly, so I don't know the nuances of the 5 goals, because unfortunately that's the one I wasn't at. That there were, I recall that there were some very specific things about valid budgets or spending, being fiscally responsible. I'm not sure, so I just think it is worth a conversation. But I agree that those pieces fell in other areas that everything we talked about should have, and it does have a financial component to it. But I remember there were some very specific things that, as a financial entity, and fiscal stewards of what we are anyway, they were really about finances. So I just think it's worth a discussion. But again, since I wasn't there, it was not something I was going to bring up to be able to.
Well, we're going to start working on it.
Yeah,
Put the ideas together, and then we'll push them out. All right. Thank you. Any questions?
So just to clarify, so whatever we get, we'll actually have notes attached to it.
I'm going to try to, we'll try to get the notes around the post-it paper. Whatever notes are written, that's
Yeah,
right.
I mean, 'cause it sounds like that there are things that have bubbled up either through the community engagement meetings or through you taking now another look at all of this that have bubbled up that we need to reconsider or now consider to be a part. I mean, I think I think that there are components that we should always have as part of our strategic plan. So I don't think that facilities is too important of an item to have a strategic plan for 5 years and there's no discussion about facilities or capital improvements. I mean, it's too big of a deal to not include in the strategic plan.
Another thing too, it was briefly mentioned about Common Core, for example. It hasn't even been all the way rolled out. We understand that it is something we have to do, but I don't believe I saw that. I mean, that's a lot of work, the Common Core. Okay. All right, thank you.
Next on the agenda is we have 3 consent agenda items. For new board members, our adopted rules of parliamentary procedures, Robert's rules, provide for the consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board subcommittee review, recommendation, documentation concerning these items have been provided to all board members and the public in advance to ensure an extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from consent agenda at the request of any board member.
I'd like to remove D from the consent agenda.
Anyone else? Okay, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda items A through C. Second, Mrs. Harold? Roll call, Mrs. Brino?
Okay. Simmons?
Yes.
Odom? Yes. Carol?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Worth?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes. And the motion passes. Next on the agenda, the approval of gifts from Homewood Acres School Recognition Association. Reorganization, I'm so sorry. Association donation $6,640.99.
So moved.
I second.
Second?
Could you tell us what the Homewood Acres School Reorganization Association is and why they're being so kind with this $6,640.99 donation to our schools?
I will. It's basically, I will have Fran come up and talk about, she talked to the person, it's been a while since we've dealt with this, but it was actually a group that was put together many years ago, and they were here to support, or there was a talk of consolidating school districts. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
and I'm really not too sure some
Yeah.
of the real details, but they did collect some fund balances, and since the committee themselves have been moving away and so on, and this never really went anywhere, but they still had this fund. And so they felt that the best use of the fund was to give it back to the school district, and they really wanted to do it very quietly without any profit. Yes, so that's.
Too late then?
I would like to be respectful of the request, but I wanted to understand where
It was a
Came up.
very random call that I got, and
I love
they
the
felt
word.
that
I love the random.
that was, yeah.
And
that's-
what are these funds specifically used for?
They did not give any specifics at all, they just said to use them towards continuation of the education of the schools. So it's just general local fund.
Sometimes you hear none of that, so we don't have fanfare, but it's really nice.
Mrs. Brino, can you roll call?
Okay. Carol?
Yes.
Worth?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Odom?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes, and the motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have a number of information and action items. First of those is the approval of the bills. I myself examined the bills this month and find them to be in good order and recommend that they be accepted as they are presented. I'd like to entertain, for the amount of $801,080 for the month of June. Okay, I make a motion to accept the bills as presented.
Second.
Mrs. Brito, will you have a roll call?
Okay.
Can we have discussion?
Oh, yeah, sure, go ahead.
So I sent a question to Mr. Paredes earlier today, and I apologize because I had not gotten to doing the bills until later this afternoon. And I raised with him a concern about a number in our legal fees that looked excessive. I thought he would be familiar with what it was. He informed me that he was not. So just for the information of the board, we agreed that we would bring it up next month, and you would, or did we not agree to
No,
that?
I said that I would look into it this week.
Oh, okay, and that we would, so could I ask that if, when we looked into it, the board could discuss that at our next meeting?
Well, you can certainly ask for an agenda item.
Okay, then we'll close, I'll ask for that.
Okay.
But I don't know if anybody else saw that amount, I might have shared those, I might have shared that same concern, so I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Okay. So Mrs. Brewer, we have a roll call?
Okay, Horace?
Yes.
Odom?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes, the motion is passed. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of payroll. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve payroll in the amount of $1,351,998.54 for the month of May as presented. So what's the first?
Oh, I make a motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Huckabee. We have a second? Thank you, Mrs. Hort. We will roll call Mrs. Prima.
Okay, Odom?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Huckabee?
Yes.
Simmons?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Horace?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes, the motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of personnel. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
So moved.
Mrs. Odom, second. Mrs. Harrell?
I'd like to ask that we
Oh, sure.
discuss in closed session before approving personnel report.
Okay, then we will table this till after we come back from executive session. Next on the agenda, we have approval of bids for Serena Hills, Flossmoor Hills asphalt project. Okay, so I'll call for a motion to approve the apparent no bid for the Serena Hills, Flossmoor Hills asphalt paving projects to Pavement Systems Incorporated for the base bid amount of $189,232. Mrs. Harrell's first, and Mrs. Huckabee second. Any comments?
Yeah, picture. How many bids did we receive? I can't remember.
Mr. Regal, if you could come up, there's a question, how many bids we received?
I know you spoke to the scientists.
We received a total of 3 bids.
Are there any other questions?
Project will begin.
29th of June, we completed the first week of August.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Priya, we have a roll call?
Okay, Simmons?
Yes.
Harold?
Yes.
Huckabee? Odom?
Yes.
Marks?
Yes.
Horace?
Yes.
Paredes?
Yes, the motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the 2015-2016 tentative budget. I would like to entertain a motion to adopt the tentative budget for fiscal year 2016 at the Okay, call for a motion to adopt the tentative budget for fiscal year 2016.
I'll make a motion.
Mrs. Odom
Second.
and Mrs. Harrell. Are there any questions?
Just one. I don't remember this detail, but the items that we're about to look at, the approval of the gifting program, the program in the high school purchases, are they included in this budget? They're not included, so, okay, so approving of the business.
So if you put anything in here, we'll add it in to next year's budget. But at this point in time, no. So we had talked about any resources or textbooks and so on would be kept kind of separate to be approved by the board and then amended to that agenda. The gifted, about a whole lot of money. I've got, contractual services. I'm still moving things around, so, but it's not in these numbers specifically.
But approval of those, if they are approved, are
Will
not, will not.
it will go in, and when you get your big document at the July board meeting, it will all be included in that item then.
Any further comments or questions? Mrs. Guido with the roll call.
Okay, Huckabee. Yes. Oda.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
Ford.
Yes.
Carol.
Yes.
Paredes.
Yes, and the motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have approval of the gifted education proposal. And we call for a motion to approve working with Northwestern Center for Gifted and Talented to review and provide recommendations for the ACE program for the 2016-2017 school year at the dollar amount not to exceed $13,500.
Make a motion.
Mrs. Oda, second. Mrs. Harrell. Any comments, questions?
I do have a question. I just wanted to get clarification on during the evaluation process, whether or not the evaluators, well, it's not the assessment process, whether or not they will also include feedback or have discussions with the current.
So part of the scope of the comprehensive scope, we have asked that they administer and develop a customized survey for parents of gifted students, district administration, and staff.
And then, I'm sorry, another question. And what's the time of this assessment again?
We would, per board approval, I would contact them, they would start working on it, and we would actually do it through the 15-16 school year, and our hope would be that the scope of service would end and we would be able to put things into practice at the beginning of the 16 school year.
So at some point, whatever the results of the assessment are, will be brought back here.
Absolutely.
Are there any further questions? I'm sorry, Mrs. Harrell?
And clarifying purpose of the scope of this, it is for looking at the current ACE program as it stands. Is it also included the selection process by which those who are brought to the ACE program? Okay. And then if that is the case, then is there any consideration, and maybe not even appropriate, but for those students who, kind of on the cusp that didn't get to the ACE, that their parents are getting some feedback or input from that group as well?
So we currently have a process, and right now, I'm trying to think, we have an appeals process, but we also have a conditional placement. And so we place students in on a conditional placement. We consider those students to be part of that program unless they prove to us that they cannot be part of the program. So those students are considered part of the ACE program on that conditional placement as well.
So they will be included in this.
And as well as anyone who is appealed in, because they are then considered part of the ACE program as well. I do also have answers that the board asked less than 2 weeks ago. So if I can provide some of that information, I would like to do that. I've been working with Nancy Spaniak, so I would like to thank publicly Nancy Spaniak for all of her help in providing this information to you. With the IB process and the HF Academy for Gifted and Talented at HF, it is an application process that 8th grade students do take an exam. Then through the application process, academically talented rising 9th graders enter into their academy. They start freshman year with honors courses and accelerated advanced placement. So our 8th graders go to them with those qualifications. They do not actually enter the IB program until their junior year. So that's some background information to give you. We do not get any CP data to give you, so that is not information that I have for you this evening. The numbers will run 2 different ways for you so that you can see, compare and contrast. We ran numbers of students from Harvard without math, being in math, so we ran them with the humanities and analytical applications, so you can see the difference between those two. For students, the percentage of all students invited to enroll in the HF Gifted Academy who were Parker students, and so we ran them for the class of 20, so we ran them who were the HF class of 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019. So we took all of that data. So percentage of all students who were invited to enroll in the HF Gifted Academy for the class of 2015, it was at 44%, and these again are students who were not analytical applications, these were only the students in the humanities category. 60% for class of 2016, 40% for 2017, 49% for 2018, and 56% for 2019. Then students, percentage of Parker students invited to enroll in the HF Gifted Academy who were members of the gifted program. Again, humanities only, 2015, 39%, 2016, 45%, 2017, 70%, 2018, 69%, and 2019, 71%. Invited Parker students enrolled who then enrolled in that gifted academy. So 2015, 71%, 2016, 85%, 2017, 73%, 2018, 64%, and 2019, 85%. And then percent of the invited gifted students who then actually enrolled. In 2015, it was 74%, 2016, 90%, 2017, 61%, 2018, 92%, and 2019, 81%. So then, when you look at the students who then enrolled and you include the humanities and the analytical applications, the percentages remain the same for the percentages of all students who enrolled in the HF Gifted Academy on that first year for 15 to 44%, 2016, 60%, 2017, 40%, 2018, 49%, and 2019, 56%. Members of Parker students invited to enroll in HF Academy who are members of the gifted program. There is one calculation that we did not get because we just pulled the numbers right before the board meeting, so we're getting back to Nancy Staniak for that tomorrow, and we'll get those numbers. For class of 2016, 82%, 2017, 97%, 2018, 100%, and 2019, 100%. The percentage of invited Parker students who enrolled then in the Gifted Academy, 71% for the class of 2015, 2016, 87%, class of 2017, 69%, class of 2018, 74%, and 2019, 83%. And then Parker students enrolled in the HF Gifted Academy who have been in Parker's Gifted program. Again, that 2015, we need that piece of data. 2016, 86%, 2017, 96%, 2018, 100% of those students, and 2019, 100% of those students. Also, there were references that I checked out from others. There was, because of the short time frame, there was only one district within the state of Illinois that I contacted, but I also spoke to a district in Ohio. They also worked with someone in Appleton, Wisconsin. I was unable to get a hold of them because the person in my position has retired to Hawaii, and we have not been able to get in touch with them. So then they gave me another reference from Chicago Public Schools, and that is one of the charter schools that is only dealing with academically talented students, so I did contact them for a reference. The Illinois school, they have been entered in a partnership with them for 3 years. They were hired, Northwestern was hired to determine an audit for their program to ensure that it was meeting the national standards for gifted. That district had been working from Renz-Louis' work, and they considered that, in this district's opinion, an older model. Northwestern has come in and has been working with that district on their testing and looking at exactly how bright is their gifted population. Northwestern has been observing their gifted teachers teach, and they've really been coaching not only their gifted teachers, but all teachers. They've worked with communication with parents. They've been working with the new max test, which is something to really find comparison districts. So this is something that we had been talking about. Through that new max, they're finding comparison districts with theirs to double check and look for equal districts compared to them with similar demographics. They've been working with online surveys with parent groups, with student groups. They've been working with looking at their gifted population as well as their advanced population, really working with a modern approach to servicing gifted students, looking at multiple needs for students, like we had talked about the twice exceptional. They're doing similar looks for that, and looking at non-traditional structures for service for those students. The Ohio reference that I talked to, there was twofold. The person that I talked to now works for the Department of Ed in Ohio, and they're still using Northwestern. That person also used to work for a service center and then also worked at a building. So they've had a relationship with Northwestern long-standing, and they said that their knowledge of gifted and what it means to educate gifted students is exceptional, that Northwestern listens to what each district needs and customizes everything for each district. They feel that Northwestern serves more than a typical gifted population, and they really develop plans to individualize for gifted and high-achieving learners. The CPS reference that we ended up getting, in their case, they had an entire school of high performers, and they wanted to find out exactly how high was each student performing. So again, they worked with the new max test and the ACT. They worked with testing for students, helped students really figure out what they needed exactly to excel, worked with their diverse learning population, worked with professional development for teachers, worked with opportunities for parents and students, really helped with classroom instruction and a service delivery model. All of them highly recommended the people who have been consulting so far with our district and said that they've been pleased with the services they help provide.
I want to make sure, thank you for getting all of the data. I just want to make sure, as I was listening to all of the years that you were speaking of, is it fair to try and do an apples-to-apples comparison between all of those years in terms of trends or growth? Because our program has changed within those years, and so Parker doesn't really have a gifted program anymore. So how are we looking at the class of 2019 and the class of 2018 compared to the class of 2015?
So we took our students starting in 2010 and 11, and that's the year that we could not get data from because we just received it prior to this board meeting. And so even though our qualifications changed as far as gifted, and what we did is what you saw when HF changed their qualifications for the IB program and took the 80% mark. So our program mirrored and matched what that 80% mark was. So our data from 2010, 2011 is that current graduating class from this year for HF.
Right, so that part I get.
Right.
So how are we looking at the data from, because the 2019, those are our eighth graders who just graduated, right?
Right.
So how are we
And so
looking at?
right now, what that data is, so if you look at the percentage of invited students who are enrolled currently in the gifted, that is just 83% who have currently said that they will enroll. So right now, we just have that data based on what we have, and we don't have enough data out to see what they will do when they are juniors in high school. So that's based on this point in time from the test that they took, and they've accepted that invitation. So based on if they are able to go into those AP classes, and if they are able, that's what that statistic is currently based on.
Just a follow-up, because I'm not sure that piece of it. I get where they're going, but and that's why I want to make sure I'm clear on this. You made a statement that those who are currently in our gifted program going to HF, we don't have a gifted program. That's what I don't know if that's was Michelle's question, but that's kind of where I was coming from, was going, who are those kids you're talking about?
We do identify for Parker.
We do identify.
So we identify for gifted at Parker, but we don't have gifted at Parker.
We do. We have the HF advanced, so we have those
Oh, the
honors
advanced.
classes, so all of those math.
Okay, so
that-
we're calling the advanced part of the group that you are identified as.
Yes, and so we still do that, and we actually do have that humanities portion that is still identified. So there still are identifications and a differentiation, so that is still occurring at Parker with differentiated curriculum for all of those that then prepare them for HF. So we still do have that.
Thank you, that would probably be it.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Comments?
Great job.
Appreciate all
Yeah,
of
thank you very much.
In a very short period of time. A lot of information.
Okay, so, this is Brina, we have a roll call.
Carol,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Marks,
No.
Worth,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Paredes.
Yes, the motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the junior high science resource purchase. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the purchase of the Broad Hill Integrated I-Science Course 1, 2, and 3 materials in the amount of $54,865.41. Mrs. Harrell? And Mrs. Horton? Any comments, questions?
Yes, Board of Education, these resources that we are recommending for purchase, there was a question that was brought up to me earlier. Did we look at other resources that are out there for the next generation science standards? And the answer to that question is the curriculum that we have coming into us is being utilized at another school, and it's been very successful. And there are units of study. That is what we are utilizing in our schools with math as well as with the ELA and language arts. So some are working on the writing portion of that as well. But the resources that are being used that we are recommending for this evening match that curriculum, and it's an integrated curriculum for 6th through 8th, and that is what the requirement is of the standards. So I just want you to be aware of that, so that teachers are ecstatic about it. We've had the person that helped to write the curriculum meet with them. This is saving our teachers at least, at a minimum, 100 hours of time. So that'll give them more time to work on the curriculum as far as the implementation process starts. It will start 6 through 8, if approved tonight, it'll start first day of school.
Are there any further questions? Mrs. Brina, we have a roll call, please.
Okay, Marks,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Worth,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Paredes.
Yes, the motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have the approval of the transportation fund. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve transferring $500,000 from the transportation fund to the education fund and $500,000 from the transportation fund to the operations and maintenance fund.
So moved.
Mrs. Miller? And Mrs. Hill? Any comments or questions? Mrs. Brina, we have a roll call.
Okay, Simmons,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Carol,
Yes.
Marks,
Yes.
Worth,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Paredes.
Yes, and the motion passes. Next on the agenda is the approval of memorandum of understanding, 12-month employee work year. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the attached memorandum of understanding with the Flossmoor Education Association. Mrs. Harrell? Second? Mrs. Ford? Any comments or questions? All right, roll call, Mrs. Marino.
Okay, Harold,
Yes.
Worth,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Marks.
Yes.
Paredes.
Yes, and the motion passes. Next on the agenda is the approval of the resolution for ascertaining prevailing wage. I will entertain a motion to approve the prevailing wage rates resolution as presented.
So moved.
Soto, second, Mrs. Hort. Mr. Duster, could you give a brief background information about this for our new board members?
I sure can. This is an annual event, or not event, but a topic that we bring up. It happens in June. We vote on it every year, and it's in regards to paying prevailing wages for people that would come into our organization and do work for us. So, for example, our bid specs that go out, we have, there's union wages on there, and there are prevailing wages on there. And those prevailing wages, there has to be a minimum of that being paid to those workers. So when that happens, or after this is approved, that is stating that our school district agrees with the prevailing wage act. Questions?
Mrs. Marino, can you roll call?
Okay, Worth,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Marks,
No.
Simmons,
No.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Paredes.
Yes, and the motion passes. At this time, the board,
Executive session, could I ask you something, could I do business, we don't need to do this on the agenda. Could I do that now? Executive session? I just want to put on, I'd like to suggest that we review review and understand, to get a report on the law firms that we use. We use 3 for some different purposes. What the various contracts are that we have with those firms, and then perhaps a little analysis of what our bills have been over the past year. Discuss, just not to vote on, but just as a discussion topic for an upcoming meeting. We haven't talked about it in a while.
Seems reasonable.
okay, is there any other new business? Okay, at this time, I would like to entertain a motion to go into executive session. Under the exemptions, a public body may hold closed meetings to consider the following subjects. 1, the employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. And number 9, student disciplinary cases.
So moved.
Mrs. Oden? Mrs. Huckabee? Mrs. Marino, can you roll call?
Okay, Marks,
Yes.
Odom,
Yes.
Huckabee,
Yes.
Worth,
Yes.
Harold,
Yes.
Simmons,